Beanstalk Global on our jet setting into Berlin. We're now live with the illustrious Jim Jefcoate. Jim, say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Matt.
Do you know when I was getting these set up earlier this week, 3 different people said, I hope you're going to get Jim on, because he's so eloquent at telling us as what is going on within the fresh produce sector and what we need to know. So there you go. There's a positive endorsement.
Matt's breaking up. I might go back into where I've come from. 1 second.
Yeah, this is the jeopardy, everyone, of going live.
Can you hear me now?
Via Europe, and yeah, I can hear you. Then I'll catch up again. Oh, I'm just going to bring you back in. Bear with us, everyone. We love this jeopardy. Yeah, you're there. Yeah, so don't go between the partitions, probably, because that's when I lose you.
Yeah. Okay.
So well done. So Jim, tell us, FRUIT LOGISTICA, Berlin, 2024, 2,800 stands. Pick a number, 70, 80,000 people. What are you? What's the sort of vibe that you're feeling?
Well, as ever, Max, it's the normal busy chaos, and trying to get from one meeting to another is a complete nightmare. But balancing that out, I think attendance is down from previous years. You can sort of see that some stands that used to be down in the dungeons and the bowels have now been promoted further upstairs, and there's noticeable. Some of the agri companies have not got stands, and I think stands of the really big companies are just generally smaller. That's my perception. So, but it's still an incredible place for one networking, just meeting contacts. So.
Yeah, and Jim, I suppose in some respects, I remember a marketing director for a very large produce company telling me that after COVID, they worked out what this thing was that was called Teams, and that why should they spend hundreds of thousands of euros having a big stand at the likes of FRUIT LOGISTICA when they can actually connect with them with growers everywhere via Teams and didn't have to drag them all the way over or fly to them. So I suppose it's evolution in a way.
Exactly. I think that's perfectly valid, Max. I think that there's a number of other factors I'd throw in there as well. I can't for the life of me understand why it has to be Wednesday, Thursday and Friday instead of the Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday that Madrid does. So tomorrow is going to be dead. There's going to be nobody around, and I won't be here to see how dead it is. But I think the other thing to bear in mind is it's in February, which is slap in the middle of the Southern Hemisphere season. So I think that has an impact on what comes in into the Southern Hemisphere, as opposed to October, which is more of a crossover of seasons between North and Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, it's almost like, Jeff, back in the day when the exhibition space realised that it was empty for February and they needed to get a big trade group in to fill it, that they presented it to the fresh produce sector, who then came in February. And as you say, on these odd dates, I remember being in a taxi on the way to FRUIT LOGISTICA, and the taxi driver saying, why isn't this event in May? Berlin is beautiful in May." And then that would come back to your point again. But yes, I suppose that's you can spend your life running around these shows in Europe and internationally, couldn't you?
Yeah, I think quite ironically, just being a little bit flippant, Max, I see that Air France and KLM have got a stand here. So I am sort of wondering whether they booked the wrong week.
Yes, you're actually, Jim, you're actually at an airline show. That's
right. Yeah, exactly.
Buy a new DC-10. So let's go back to you, because this is all about you. You had a recent article in the trade press. Do you want to just highlight that for us, please?
Yeah, it's a path that I'm beating at the moment. I think there is a lot of frustration in the industry about the administrative burden that's being put on companies. It's getting ever greater. Audit scopes are getting wider and wider. Audits are getting longer. And my basic premise is, well, why do we have to do all of this in the low risk areas of the produce industry? It's anathema to me, really. And so I've been having a number of conversations with with suppliers, and they are starting to see that actually using eulogy and concentrating as much on the product of the process rather than just the process itself is probably a much more sustainable way to go with their business.
Okay, and on that side, it feels like this is evolution, not revolution. But presumably you're not a lone voice in this, because there's, everyone knows, it's such a margin pressured sector. So anything that we can do to create efficiencies. I remember someone once saying to me in fresh produce that there's so much profitability held up within the supply chain. So why do we need bureaucracy like this? Jeff, are you a lone voice, or have you got a number of people that agree with you? And why hasn't this already happened?
I think that the whole auditing paradigm is so embedded that people are reluctant to stick their heads above the parapet. I'm no longer a retailer, I'm no longer a supplier, so I'm quite free to take flack from all quarters on the view. But I think it is an element of disruption that's actually needed in the industry.
Yeah. Okay. And is that an issue that we've got as an industry, that we are, though we're very collaborative, when we do need to create changes, we're not very vocal. We don't come together as one to try and create those changes?
Yeah, I think what tends to happen, Max, is that when it comes to compliance, so whether it's food safety compliance or quality compliance or sustainability compliance, we tend to get dragged along by the food industry.
Yeah.
So what tends to happen, I believe, is that we end up with a load of requirements that, yes, are perfectly valid for the high-risk food sectors, but just don't make economic sense for the low-risk produce sectors.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think there's something that we can? I'm sure you've already done this. The big trade groups, so the likes of the Fresh Fells, the IFPA, the NFU, the FPC. Are you seeing any any positive noises from any of those organisations in the mantra that you're looking to?
We're starting up a group in the FBC, so I chipped in at their last technical working group saying we're looking to do a survey of FBC members and then pull a group together to see if we can try and design a way forward that, one, gives the big brands their brand protection that they're looking for and their brand enhancement, but very much cuts down on the administrative burden that that suppliers are having to go through. They're having to do the same job 2 or 3 times, or any number of times to how many retailers they've got. So there's got to be a much more cost-efficient one-stop shop out there that delivers value for money, not only for the retailers but also for the suppliers.
Yeah, and Jim, if it's okay, we've got. I'm just looking at the stats on the screen behind, and we've got a number of people looking in on an international basis. Can you just give us the elevator pitch on you, because it's not like you've just been a a riggedy-dink potato supplier out of Spalding. What's your background? Because I just want to give that give you your the chance to give us your background so that you can see the authority that you're speaking on. What's your background?
So Max, you've just lost your viewers from the Lincolnshire potato industry.
Again.
No, but my background I joined ASDA just before the Food Safety Act comes in, which is a horrifying thought, back in the late 80s. I then jumped onto the supplier side. So I went from being gamekeeper to being poacher, developed my skills as a poacher on the supply side, and then jumped back into retail with IPL and Asda and Walmart. So I don't know, you do the maths. I'm too old to work it out, Matt. So from about 87 through to today, how many years is that? 36-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
Which actually, Matt, is quite interesting, because it means I'm very much fitting into the majority demographic here, which is overweight, middle-aged male.
Stop it. Stop it. And I'm going to put your link to the. I think it's on the FPJ Fresh Produce Journal, so that people could see that that article, because it is important. Because then anything that can assist growers and the supply chain businesses and the marketing businesses to eradicate duplication, inefficiencies is obviously going to help. And here's Jim, an expert within the sector, retailer, now a freelance consultant. And so if he's saying it, he's saying it with cold and educated eyes. And Jim, we were just talking in our green room earlier. There's a lot of people talking about the likes of sustainability and trying to get the consumer more engaged with fresh produce. Are you picking up these themes either at the show or just generally about the excitement about sustainability and this whole conundrum as to how we get the consumer to buy more apples rather than Pop-Tarts?
Yes, the general consumption and looking at the food waste element is obviously a key theme that we're seeing around here. But I would say the actual representation, I think it's actually diminished from previous years. But again, it's being able to meet those requirements to promote the product in a very cost efficient way. Your good friend Nigel Jenny was saying on the TV, I think, that all of the extra requirements that come in are going to add about 30% to fruit and veg prices.
Yeah.
So, where do you go? Where are you going to find those efficiencies that are actually going to drive consumption?
Yeah, agreed. And then we've got this scenario of all the highly processed food sector. They make so much money that they can reinvest it in marketing. As someone said earlier, when was the last time you saw a TV advert in Coronation Street trying to promote bananas? Never has been, and probably never will be. But come on, Jim. There must be some positives. Let's talk about some positives about the sector. What are you excited about the fresh produce sectors?
Well, I think looking, there's the one area where I say representation has increased is on things like the innovation on vertical farming and other methods of growing. I'd say that representation hasn't diminished at all, and if anything, its representation at the show has increased. So I think it's really good that innovation is getting a much higher profile, and even going into the area of things like robotics, where solutions for our employment challenges in the UK.
Yeah. Well done. And then just on our side, on my day job on recruitment, we're seeing a number of new funds coming into the sector because they're very excited. They seem to be cash rich. They want to invest in sustainable food, and especially fresh food, because they can see that's going to quote unquote feed the world. There is a bit of naivety there in the respect of they thinking there's going to be quick wins, but it's great that they're coming in because that's going to create that investment for the sector ongoing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jim, let's wrap up. So, what keeps you awake at night about the fresh produce sector, and what excites you about the fresh produce sector? What's the negatives? What's the positives? Go.
Well, I think with the positives are that there's huge opportunities to really drive the industry into the 21st century and look at very very creative ways of not only driving consumption but also driving efficiency into the whole compliance program, and making it the forefront industry that it really should be.
Yeah.
On the maybe keeping me awake at night is the fact that there's all these extra costs are coming in, and that is going to have a ripple effect through every sector in the industry, through every department, through every team, and I really worry about what the produce industry is going to be looking like in 2 years' time unless something is done about those costs.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. Jim, thank you very much. Let's sign off from Berlin. We hope you have a good trip back, and we'll see you at the next show.
Um, can I,
Whether that be the Spalding Potato Growers or whether that be
yeah. You will be a keynote. You'll be a keynote speaker, Max. I'll make sure of that. I just want to finish off with a stat that I worked out in a very sad moment. I've done about 23,000 steps, or I will have done on both days, and which is all very positive from the health viewpoint. But I actually worked out that a currywurst on calorific value is about 10,000 steps. So unfortunately, my calorific intake is not being balanced out by my calorific expenditure.
Oh, no, don't worry. When you get home, there'll be a bag of potatoes waiting for you on the doorstep. There you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. Jim, thank you as ever.